here are the facts. Many of my people know people on that side. That's a true statement. I have emails and text messages to prove that. And there's been some engagement on whether people are invited or not. Nobody knew anything about the list. We were told that there'd be a list that comes out on Monday. Uh, we did not get an invitation on Monday. We did not get an invitation on Tuesday. We did not get an invitation today on Wednesday. So I'm going to operate under the assumption I have not been invited to go to this gathering. As seductive and tempting as it can be to have the US government or any government get involved in our space to create temporary market distortions, we must never forget the reason why cryptocurrencies exist is so that we no longer need governments. We can transcend them. That, my friends, is why we're really here.
What's up, Ada Gang? Welcome into Dapp Central, your home for everything blockchain and crypto. I'm your host here, Fareed. As a part of today's video, a brief update on the first ever White House Crypto Summit being held by President Donald Trump, and the fact that we've got confirmation that Charles Hoskinson will not be in attendance. Now, it's not all bad news. There's a lot of positive news here, and there's actually a recent live stream that Charles has just posted. I want to recap, rehash, and sort of highlight here as it relates to what his current focus is and what the long-term vision is in the entire crypto space, not necessarily focusing on the everyday moments or the shiny objects, for example, like this particular event. Now, granted, yes, this would be huge for Cardano. This would be huge for exposure, but I do think that there will be additional opportunities. And so having said that, and before we go any further, if it's your first time stopping by the channel, my goal is to help you find your footing here within the Cardano and Bitcoin ecosystems. If you appreciate this type of content, please smash that thumbs up. If you want more, consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to go ahead and comment down below. Now, feel free, of course, and as always, to use the timestamps here to jump into any particular section that you'd like to hear or see a little bit more about. I will be playing a 5-minute clip, and I'll be leaving the link to Charles's official, it's about 30-minute live stream if you want to catch everything down below. But I've taken the time to listen to it myself, to rehash a couple of things here, and hopefully save you a little bit of time. So again, if you appreciate that, please smash that thumbs up. Now, I released a video yesterday breaking down the fact that the White House will be hosting its first ever crypto summit. And so just sort of briefly catching everybody up, this is scheduled to take place, which it'll include key industry leaders on the 7th of March. Now, Charles Hoskinson will actually be in Japan. And so as the White House prepares, there's obviously been a lot of speculation as to who's going to be attending and who won't be attending. And we've got a pretty interesting list here. So we've got a couple of people that have been confirmed. And as I scroll up here, let me actually zoom out just a little bit. There we go. We've got Michael Saylor, the founder of MicroStrategy, who will be in attendance. We've got the CEO of the Bitcoin Magazine. We've got the CEO of Coinbase, Robinhood, Kraken, Crypto.com, and Ripple. Now, what's interesting there is on the right-hand side, in terms of unconfirmed potential guests, we've got Cathie Wood, Vitalik Buterin, of course, Charles Hoskinson, and Mark Andreessen. Now, looking at the left-hand side there, there's no crypto founders or there's no early adopters, right? Or just people that believed in the space before it actually became what it is now. And so the fact that Charles hasn't been invited, he did mention the fact that they got late notice of anything, even when it came to invitations, they just literally heard about them on Sunday. So just a couple of days ago, but even thinking, out loud here, Vitalik hasn't been invited. And there's a lot of other great minds that have contributed here into the development of the technology that we have today that did not make this event. And so what the White House has said, and I'm going to read a brief snippet here, is that they will be hosting a separate event for anybody that did not get an invitation to this particular event. In terms of members from the actual White House, we've got confirmations from Bo Hines, David Sachs, Mark Ueda, Carolyn Pham, And then we've got a couple of members there on the right-hand side, which have yet to be confirmed. And so, as I mentioned, and as I continue on here, a larger event is planned for those who weren't initially invited. And this will also be an invite only reception that's being planned across the street from the actual White House. And so the plans are not fully finalized here, but there could be an additional opportunity. Will this also be taking place on the same day? Again, I'm not sure, but it does seem like there is something else given how small or how decisive or selective they have to be in this initial process for the official roundtable discussion. And so, having said that, let's dive into Charles's most recent chat. I'll leave the link to it down below, and I'm going to play it here in just a moment. But it's roughly 20 to 25 minutes. The piece that I'm going to play here are just some of the key highlights, which is only about 5 or so minutes. And so, again, that'll be coming up here in just a moment. And as I just briefly recap, the first thing Charles highlights is the fact that, of course, he will not be attending this event, or at least to his knowledge, he hasn't received an official invitation. And he also already has a planned trip, which will be taking place on the 7th. He'll be in Japan for a Japanese community meetup where they'll be discussing the Cardano roadmap, the Cardano budget, how to get Bitcoin DeFi here on Cardano, and just how to scale, right, Cardano to the next level. So that's probably the most important thing that people want to hear. And of course, again, it's unfortunate, but there's not much that we can do about that. Now, as a part of his live stream, he does emphasize on multiple occasions the fact that the actual law making or the policy making takes place as a part of the legislative branch, not the executive branch, which a lot of people hear about. For example, like this White House summit that's dealing with Donald Trump, the president, and the executive branch. But a lot of the actual policy making will come from the legislative branch, which Charles has been very clear. He's still communicating and making an effort to get plugged in and to make as much ties or network as much as possible in that particular portion of the government. So again, he's really stepping back and looking at the bigger picture and trying not to fall for some of these shiny objects. Now, like I mentioned earlier, from an optics perspective, it would be great if we could definitely get him at some of these events where he's able to rub shoulders with people like Donald Trump. Now, continuing on, Charles does mention the fact that JJ Seiler is right now in DC. Now, for what? We don't know just yet. We did see him at the inauguration. We know that JJ is essentially Charles's right-hand man. And so while Charles might be in Japan, JJ could still be getting a lot of things done in terms of setting up potential meetings with senators and continuing to chip away or to at least grow that relationship within that legislative branch. One other thing that Charles discussed, and I actually brought this up yesterday, was the Made in USA slogan. And so there's been this recent chat about different cryptos and assets which have been made in the USA. Cardano was obviously one of those. And he raised the fact that Cardano isn't necessarily a US-based crypto. It's a global cryptocurrency that anybody, right, can use to transact with. And he also highlighted, what is Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin made in the USA? Again, there's just so much here, which has popped up as of late, but there's been no standardization. And to have heard Charles himself mention this gave me a little bit of validation, because I was also wondering the same thing. It just seemed like people just sort of made that its own thing and just sort of ran with it. And so it'll be interesting to see exactly what classifies a crypto as a US-based crypto. But that is one of the key pieces that Charles does break down in his live stream. He also goes on to talk about the fact that crypto is not an America-only industry, and that the US has actually been lagging from a regulatory perspective, which he is technically right. With the Biden administration, they did a lot to sort of stifle or to at least slow down the growth and adoption of cryptocurrencies. And while we were doing that here in the USA, we take a look at other continents and countries, they were continuing to adopt. So one of the key points that he mentioned that I really appreciated was the fact that a lot of other countries have gone through some of the hurdles, some of the pain, some of the issues that we may be going through in just a little bit. He made a really good point stating that maybe we should actually be looking outwards instead of trying to reinvent the wheel here as it relates to regulations and how to make sure that we are accommodating enough for business and making it easy for the regular person to jump into investing into crypto assets. Now, as we get ready to wind down here, and again, I'll be playing the actual clip here in just a moment, he does also talk about the fact that we want to have international policy. And so, yes, while it's great to sort of set the stage here within the USA, we want to make sure to include other countries, other nations, and other continents because crypto does not sleep. In closing, and this is probably the most impactful piece that he made within this particular live stream for me, he reminded us, right, as a community, why we even have blockchain technology in the first place. And that's so we don't have to rely on an actual government. And that right there took me back to the fundamentals. Like we get caught up in the everyday, in the hype, in the news, in the price, that sometimes we tend to forget why we even got here in the first place. And so that was a really, really good reminder for me. Hopefully that sticks out to you. But in an ideal world, the reason why we're even doing this is so that we don't have to have the executive branch, people like Donald Trump, who are sort of at the helm, who dictate the perception of Cardano, the perception of just crypto as a whole for the entire United States. And so having said that, I know that there's been a lot of mentions of Trump here on the channel. Some people are for him, some people are against him. I just want to close out by stating that I am just a messenger here. I realize that Biden didn't necessarily touch crypto as much, so there wasn't a lot of mentions of him here on the channel, but it's not any sort of favoritism on my perspective or on my end. I just realized that with the fact that Donald Trump is more vocal, he's launched his own meme coin. He's obviously very well aware. He's appointed people like Elon Musk to be a part of his administration, that there's the inherent adoption of him coming into the crypto space, whether we like it or not. And so I just wanted to just put that out there because I realized that there's people on both sides of the fence that watch this particular channel, but please don't shoot the messenger. I'm just trying to do my job here. And when things, for example, like the Cardano asset being used as one of those assets within the crypto treasury, I have to cover that. There's just no way for me to get around that. And that inevitably includes talking about Donald Trump. And so having said that, that is all of the rambling I'm doing here today. I'll send you guys off here with a brief 5-minute clip again of Charles with some of those biggest highlights here as a part of that latest live stream. Link to the full live stream is down below. As always, if you appreciated content like this, please smash that thumbs up. If you want more, consider subscribing. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to voice off down below. That said, enjoy the rest of today's video.
Nobody knew anything about the list. We were told that there'd be a list that comes out on Monday. We did not get an invitation on Monday. We did not get an invitation on Tuesday. We did not get an invitation today on Wednesday. So I'm going to operate under the assumption I have not been invited to go to this gathering. For the last few months, I've been reminding everybody one fact of the American government that may be lost on our international viewers. The president signs the laws. The legislative branch writes the laws. The vast majority of the sustainable permanent action that will be done at the legislative branch level. The stablecoin bill has to be passed. The market structure bill has to be passed. And dozens of other things are going to have to be written into law or authorizations given to the bureaucracy of the United States to standardize things. The U.S. government is a leviathan. Everybody focuses on the president. Everybody focuses on the White House, because it's simple and easy to do so. We have tried throughout the last 3 months to have meaningful engagement and get a better understanding of everything from how they were thinking about creating a crypto czar. And it's an absolutely true statement that before the election and after, we made meaningful attempts to reach out to the transition team and talk to them about what they wanted to do and how they wanted to do it. And nobody really knew. And as much as we as an industry want this to be a short process, it's going to be a long and methodical process, which is why we focus most of our policy engagement on the legislative branch. As I've told you consistently from November, December, and beyond. We've tried some engagement with some degree of success on the executive branch side, and we worked really hard to see if there were any opportunities to be in those rooms. And the frustration and challenge for us is we could never get clear answers on such things. not for lack of trying. There's been occasional times where we've had the ability to be in the room for various things, but none of those things were meaningful from a perspective of setting policy. As, for example, I said on David Gokhstein's show that we knew nothing of ADA being selected for the reserve. It was news to me. I woke up on Sunday. I looked at my phone. I had over 150 messages with saying, congratulations and great job, and no idea what the heck was going on. I said, what are you talking about? And then I saw the tweet and I said, wow, that's absolutely amazing. And I guess something was done, but we never knew anything about it. No one ever even talked to us about it. And we tried really hard to have those conversations. And there was always like, we'll call you back, or, yeah, we'll figure it out. And one of the things that I'm a bit flummoxed by is there's a lot of people who really need to be in the room, who are domain experts, who have enormous knowledge about the industry, who aren't yet in the room, like Lehman Baird from Hashgraph, for example, who thoroughly impressed me when I spent some time with him, or Silvio McCauley from Algorand, for example, or Avery Chang from Aptos, or Benjamin from Multiverse X. There's hundreds of these people that we know, we've engaged with, and we say they understand the technology, they understand the markets, they understand the underlying science behind the technology. They understand how people make money lawfully and not so lawfully, because they've run into all these different people throughout the years. And they understand every dimension and aspect of the industry. You can't get all those people in the room if it's 25 people, an invitation only event at the White House. It's just not possible. So there needs to be alternative structures for those people to participate in a considered, systematic, and deliberate way. So I had travel plans to go to Japan. Supposed to get on a plane here in a little bit, and I will be Friday the 7th in Japan. I'm going to operate under the assumption that I'm not going to this event, especially after this video, and that's okay. I'm always available for a phone call, and I'm always available for an email, and I have very strong opinions about things, where they should go, what they should do, how they should do things, and I'll express those opinions to those who ask me. But my primary job is not lawmaker. My primary job is cryptocurrency CEO. Every single day I wake up and I ask questions like, how do I get more adoption for Cardano? How do I implement Leos? How do I get Bitcoin DeFi done? How do I ship Midnight? How do I build the next generation Dapp? How do we get the next white paper written, of which we have over 240 research papers with people all throughout the world, many of which are the brightest minds in the world? And how do I turn those papers into the future products that people care about? Not for Americans, but for the world. As seductive and tempting as it can be to have the US government or any government get involved in our space to create temporary market distortions, we must never forget the reason why cryptocurrencies exist is so that we no longer need governments. We can transcend them. That, my friends, is why we're really here and what we're really doing. Policy helps us get there, but ultimately we have to make a decision. What do we believe in?